that experience. And we'll shift a little bit of gears, and we're moving over to an amazing speaker from Vancouver. His name's Colin Weston, and he's an experienced designer, golf disruptor. I actually want to hear what this is about. And urban surf park developer, as well as being a podcast hoster dedicated to re-imaging sport to make the experience more compelling. Please welcome Colin. Thank you. Yeah.
Best forward is...
I think forward is down.
There we go.
I hope. If not, tell me.
Hello, everyone. It's Michelle. Michelle, thank you so much for inviting me here. She's taken this leap of faith when we just met a couple months ago to actually be here, so hopefully I don't disappoint. You also met Rob Foxall earlier on, and Rob and I are the co-founders and community builders with Startup Vancouver. So if you have any questions about that afterwards, please ask. So with that, and my background, I've been an entrepreneur for about 5 years, although you're going to learn that I've been thinking about that for an awfully long time. Kind of leading up to that, I've been an architectural designer, focusing mainly on large healthcare infrastructure projects, and even more so in sport architecture and sport experience design. So a couple of disclaimers here, first of all. I will talk very fast also. Wherever Chris is, I'm going to challenge you. I think I'm going to beat you on that one. The other one is this will be about 95% unscripted, so I'm just going to see how this goes. And there'll be no words on the slides besides what you see on here. So we'll see how this goes. And the reason that I'm going to have this unscripted is my ability to actually remember things is shit. So I don't do that for that particular reason. So the other thing that actually defined that was I was actually fired as the lead role as Santa Claus in my grade 4 Christmas play. So that's kind of really held deep. So I understand that I can't memorize things all that well. So on that grade 4 kind of launch pad here, we'll kind of go back a little bit very quickly. So I only have 15 minutes to cover 4 years here. But to talk about myself a little bit. So kind of my suburban Toronto dream that I grew up in the 1970s was I had a love for sport. I had a love for wearing secondhand hockey equipment, and apparently I had the ability to rock a 3-button blazer at that particular age, which I'm very proud of. So that's kind of where I started from. Oh, just to back up for a sec here. That I had a great childhood, and it was really a safe environment. And my parents are wonderful, and for the best of intentions, they actually made it as safe as possible. And they're the type of people that didn't take a lot of chances, were really risk adverse. So I kind of grew up in that mindset. And like a lot of people, it's kind of human nature to gravitate towards warmth and comfort and safety. And that really worked for my dad. He had the same job for 45 years where he worked. The couple times where he had the opportunity to get promoted and do something, even with a little bit of risk, he didn't do that. And that's fine, that's his personality, but that's kind of the way we rolled in our household. So he definitely gravitated toward this warmth, where I always had this inside of me that I was a little bit different, that, you know, I just gravitate towards the chaos, kind of the messiness of the uncertainty. Probably like a lot of you, you're all entrepreneurs, and most of you are, you kind of feel that too. You're kind of gravitated to kind of move forward towards what you see there, rather than gravitate towards the warmth, and I'm very much like that. So about 10 years ago, I heard this quote that states, if I can get this right, that a ship is safest when it's in harbor. That's not what a ship is designed for. I started to realize that my life was for the most part in the harbor, that I hadn't had that opportunity or taken that chance to kind of move beyond that. Did lots of interesting things and exciting things in the architectural realm, but really didn't actually move beyond that. So I wanted to set sail. But like a lot of people, a lot of entrepreneurs, you don't quite know what that is yet. And I really didn't know where I wanted to sail my ship to. So that all changed 5 years ago. And that was with our aha moment, all things coming together. So at a Vancouver sports bar in January of 2014 with my good friend and now co-founder, Philip Davis, we're sitting there watching some sports, and on all the screens that were there, there was a boring golf tournament, and there was an action sport event, one called Red Bull Crashed Ice. If you're not familiar with that, it's this awesome thing. We got 100,000 people, lights, music, action, energy. They got this ice track, 4 skaters at one time racing down this thing. I personally love this. That's just the way I am. And we kind of looked at this, and I turned to Philip and said, you know, wouldn't it be awesome if you got rid of the ice track and just took 3 holes of golf and just dropped that in there and have the same insanity, the awesomeness going on as compared to regular golf and disrupting that. So being architects, and as we were, we ordered some more beers and got some napkins and got some pens and worked that out for the next couple hours. And what we came up with and designed, come on, work with me here, was what we actually call with our sport property, the first thing out of our gate with our company, called Rip Links. I'm not going to do an investor pitch here, so I'm going to be very quick about this. Essentially, what we saw is a huge gap in opportunity in the market and the pain points with golf. You may laugh, but and you got to think, this is 5 years ago, so this is even more disruptive as then. So what we looked at was all the trends and patterns that were emerging in not only action sport, but lifestyle, music, entertainment. And so we want to take the best elements of that and combine that into an elite level golf event. So part Cirque du Soleil, getting off the golf course, taking it to the city, taking it to a beach resort, or even bringing it up here in Whistler, like you have with Crankworks up here. So sure, you look at this and go, well, that seems like a really cool idea, but how does it actually solve a problem? And as we started to research this over the next couple of years, over the next couple of months, we realized golf had this huge problem. So it wasn't just this cool idea that was looking for a problem to solve. The fact that golf, the industry was in crisis. The fact golf courses were closing, equipment sales were down, over 25% of people in North America had stopped playing the game, over 5 million people. So they were looking for solutions. So we did what a lot of entrepreneurs do when they're still unsure. They talk to their friends and they talk to people, and sure, we went online to kind of see if we really had some validation here. There was no spring at that time. I know those guys well. Wish you were back then. It would have made it easier. But we needed to validate this. So this was our opportunity to set sail with our ship. And this is for, I guess, for you Star Wars geeks out here. If you imagine Luke Skywalker getting off of Tatooine, that's when he actually got on the Millennium Falcon for the first time, leaving the world he knows into some world he doesn't. That's kind of where we are with this right now. And where we ended up going after researching this was something called the PGA Merchandise Show in Orlando, which they have every single year. And the reason we went there, not knowing anything about the golf industry, is 30,000 industry professionals and influencers descend upon here every single year. So we figured, you know what, if this thing is going to work and get validated, this is the place to go. So we got on a plane, we went there, and on the very first day, they actually had this panel discussion. And on the panel discussion, they were talking about growing the game and connecting with millennials. We said, we should go to that. So we made our way over there, got there a bit late. It was already packed, standing room over, only 1,000 people there. And the main reason it was standing room only, because this guy was here. So as you can see, a little bit odd, you've got 6 people over 50 years old talking about millennials, but that's another topic we can talk about again. So of course, not surprisingly, who spoke first? And that was the Donald. But before I say that, there's one thing. I actually brought one prop, and I forgot it with my timing here. The fact we actually showed up there to make sure we disrupted ourselves as much as we possibly could. Philip and I then showed up looking like a couple of overage skate punks with, amongst this sea of blue blazers and beige trousers. So this is how we showed up. And the Donald went on, and he gets the microphone, and he says, golf is in amazing shape. My golf courses are the best in the world. Everybody loves them, believe me. Okay, that's the best I can do. So hopefully that worked. Oh, thank you. Okay, I'll take that. I'll take that. So they talked for an hour, and then once they were done, the interesting thing is they had a Q&A with the audience. So as the microphone goes around, I just said to myself, I've got to get that microphone. I have no idea what I'm going to say. It's just one of those moments. And I kind of thought, it's like, you know what, there's a few times in life that you actually have this chance, this inflection point. So kind of post-rationalizing this, I look at this and it reminds me of a Tibetan saying, which is, it's better to live a day as a lion than it is 1,000 years as a sheep. So this is my lion-like moment for that day. So I kind of said, I gotta get that microphone, and I reached over and I got it. I was the last person to speak, and the first thing I said is, Mr. Trump, didn't even say with all due respect, said, Mr. Trump, I disagree with you. Golf is not in great shape. There's problems, which you haven't discussed, and then I explained our solution, which I already kind of talked to you. I'm not going to take up my time telling you that anymore. Went on for 2 minutes. After the mic dropped with that, it was over. People were dispersing, but as I was ready to leave, Philip tapped me on the shoulder and goes, I think that guy on the far right there, or second from the right, wants to talk to you. And sure enough, he's waving and having us come over, and I didn't know anybody there. And this guy, his name is Mark King, and Mark King is the president of TaylorMade Adidas Golf, so the biggest golf equipment industry manufacturer in the world. So long story short, He comes and talks to us. We get a 15-minute meeting lined up with all of his executives the next day, which turns into a 2-hour meeting of absolute awesomeness with no slides, no computer, just having a conversation, which is we found out, unbeknownst to us, that the day before, they just announced something they called Hack Golf, which is a $5 million, terrible name, $5 million initiative to grow the game. So as he's telling us this, he loves what we're doing. He says, I want to get you down to Southern California to our headquarters. And are you guys available in a couple weeks' time so we can actually figure this out as a partnership because we've got the money and love what you're doing? And we said, yeah. So that sounded good to us. So we went back to Vancouver and we waited. We waited, we waited, and we waited. Turned out then, as we found out, unfortunately, because the golf industry was suffering, they got their quarterly reports, terrible results. Stock price drops by 30% in a couple weeks. So all of a sudden, that opportunity really got 5 minutes, so I gotta hurry up here. So it disappeared. Our rock had rolled down to the bottom of the hill again. So with that, rather than saying, you know what, we're just gonna give up, we showed some tenacity, and I looked at it this way. I didn't come up with this one, but what we needed to do was jump out of a plane and design the parachute on the way down. So that's exactly what we did. So one thing we heard at the show from a lot of people said, we love what you're doing, really cool, but when are you having an event and where's it gonna be? Which we didn't have an answer to either one of those. So as we pushed this rock back up the hill, we said, you know what, screw it. We're gonna have it in Vancouver, we're just gonna have an event, we're actually gonna put it, we're gonna actually put it right there, and it's gonna look like this. We have the gameplay, we've actually got all these amazing athletes that actually wanna play. One thing I should mention, the fact that one of the inspirations for me is the fact that women and men can play at the same time, so we have a platform to empower women that actually has really taken off, but we can talk about that later, happy to afterwards, and that really drives me in this, sort of our passion. Indiegogo campaign, if you see the raise on the right, yeah, don't do experiences for Indiegogo campaigns, they don't work. But that's another topic I can talk about later anyway. So anyway, the great thing that came out of this 3-month effort, it wasn't a failure when we didn't have this event, because this young woman out of the States then asked me, because she liked it so much, was gonna play, she says, do you know Topgolf and you know Eric Anderson? And I said, no and no. Turns out this guy is the lead investor of what is now a $5 billion privately held company. He's based in Seattle. And Topgolf, they basically gamified a driving range, if you will. That basically it's a food and beverage play, but actually there's targets, it's fun, and they've attracted a younger audience. There's 40 of these already, they're coming to Canada, they're just crushing this thing. So he was going to invest, we met him many times, we're at a friendship level now, but for over 8 months we were back and forth, he wanted to invest, he wanted to inquire, and it's kind of got weird, and we kind of left him alone for a while, even though we promised we were gonna do something, even though we didn't believe him at that time. So the rock rolled back down to the bottom of the hill for us with this. So we did as we do, said, okay, let's do an MVP, let's do it right this time. So we actually did an indoor event, so now we're up to a year and a half ago here, that actually held at a place in Vancouver. So we tested all our gameplay. So it really was a minimum viable product, and we actually got the feedback loop that we actually wanted from this for a physical event. And then from there, this actually taught us 2 things to also do at the same time. We learned so much with enough insights and the confidence that we had already been thinking about other sport innovations. And if you guys may have seen this, that we're the designers of a surf park proposal in Vancouver that now we've actually taken even to a bigger level in the United States with design build partners, wave technology partners, and investment partners to actually make this happen. So that's on its way. And also from there, the trust that we built with this gentleman, Eric Anderson, actually allowed him to come back and allow us to actually envision and develop their complete outdoor mobile stadium-based experience called Top Golf Crush. Should know the name of that since I didn't name that. I got better names, but that's another story. So they've gamified this also. So these are the things that have come out of this. I've got a podcast that's come out of this because of all the influencers that I know from it. So now the rock, I don't look at it as rolling down the hill. I look at it as a stone, all these series of stones that I keep approaching and I keep turning over to reveal these other things that I didn't even know existed before. So in this 3-year period, we're now in this place that we didn't even know existed before. So I look at it that all of us have superpowers. And I think mine, and I've been told some of mine, are tenacity, authenticity, empathy, and the other one is ignorance. You may think that's kind of weird, but I look at that as my ultimate superpower, because if I would have known what the hell I know now. Back then, I would have never tried in the first place. I would have not had the guts. We said, this is way too hard, way too complicated, and it's kind of like parenting. My wife and I talk about this all the time. But anyway, so that's my superpower. I'd love to hear all of your superpowers afterwards. So we're still out there getting thrashed around in the sea, but we understand now that's where we need to be. That's my happy place. I'm not here to brag about some $10 million exit that I haven't had. You know, ultimately, we're still climbing that mountain, or a different mountain, and we're climbing a couple of them right now. But ultimately, we're happy. And we're now working on amazing things, and we've met these amazing people that if we actually didn't take that first chance and me getting out of that harbor, I would have never actually gone there in the first place. So that's my story. Thank you very much. Sorry, I went